Now let us proceed to the next topic. Factories come up. Now here children, the two topics, the first and the second topic on page number 118, these both the topics are very important because only the questions may come, short questions and even 3-marker question about early entrepreneurs. What do you know about early entrepreneurs and what do you know about the early industries of India? So factories which were set up in India by the Indian industrialists were, one is the first cotton mill in Bombay came up in 1854. You can get 1-marker question also here. Around the same time, that is jute mills also came up in Bengal, the first being set up in 1855 and another one 7 years later in 1862. Then in North India, the Ellen mill was started in Kanpur in the 1860s and a year later the first cotton mill of Ahmedabad was set up. So these were some of the early industries. Now you have to learn from the book only about these industries. This question you cannot ignore. These are very, very important question. Then we will proceed to the early entrepreneurs. Now what do you know about early entrepreneurs? Entrepreneurs are those people you have read in class 9th, that is those who control over the industries, those who have the control over the industries. They have all the means, they command the 4 factors of production, land, labor and capital. They have enough knowledge about how to produce, what to produce and for whom to produce. So these rich people have enough capital also and they can invest money and they can set up their industries. So we have some industrial groups, Indian industrialists also, and they were trading with China from the very early. That is, the history of many business groups goes back to the trade with China from the late 18th century, and they had amassed enough money out of this trade and they had the dream of setting up Indian industries. So they had their own vision of setting up Indian industries. There were some industrialists who showed their interest and they had set up their industries. We are going to talk about them. Having earned through trade, some of these businessmen had vision of developing industrial enterprise in India. So we would like to know their names. A question comes from here also. Again, you have to refer to these names only. In Bengal, Dwarkanath Tagore made his fortune in China trade before he turned to industrial investment, and he set up 6 joint stock companies in 1830s and 1840s. Then we have in Bombay Parsis like Din Shah Petit, Jamshed Tata, who built huge industrial empires in India. Then we had Seth Hukumchand, a Marwari businessman who set up the first Indian jute mill in Calcutta in 1917. Now children, when you write about these entrepreneurs also, you should write in points. Seth Hukumchand, a Marwari businessman, we have read about him now, and so they also traded with China and they amassed enough money from that Chinese trade and they set up their own industries. Now capital was accumulated through the other trade networks, and these traders, these were the industrial businessmen and industrial merchants. They operated within India, carrying goods from one place to another, and all decisions, that is investment and that is how to operate the production and financing, transferring funds, every decision was being taken by them only. When opportunities of investment in industries opened up, many of these they invested and they set up their factories, and all decisions were taken by them. They were very independent. But again, situation changed. A colonial control over Indian trade tightened slowly and gradually. When the Indian trade came under the control of the colonial power, The space within which Indian merchants could function became increasingly limited. Now they lost their independence and they were barred from trading with Europe in manufactured goods. So certain restrictions were imposed upon the Indian industrialists. They had to export mostly raw materials and food grains, raw cotton, opium, wheat, and indigo. That was required by the British. So only they were they asked for raw materials to supply to them, and they were also gradually edged out of the shipping business. So this was how the Indian traders, the Indian merchants, they were also finding it very difficult, and they lost their independence when the colonial control over Indian trade tightened. Till the First World War, European managing agencies in fact controlled a large section of Indian trade industries. Three of the bigger ones. So we are now read out the three important agencies which are also important from your examination point of view, one marker questions. These were the biggest agencies. They were controlling the Indian trade. Three of the biggest ones were Hegler's and Company, Andrew Yule, and Jardine Skinner and Company. So these were the trading agencies. They all controlled the Indian industries. Now you will find that when the agencies mobilized capital, set up joint stock companies and managed them. In most instances, Indian financiers provided the capital. Now they decided, all business decisions were taken by them. So they wanted the Indian financiers to provide capital, while the European agencies, they made all the investments and business decisions were taken by these agencies. I hope it is clear. So now the Indian merchants, Indian traders, they were only asked to finance, and all business decisions were taken by them. The European merchants, industrialists had their own chambers of commerce which Indian businessmen were not allowed to join. So they were now left with only one work, that they were supposed to finance for the industries, that is Indian merchants. So this is how they captured the Indian industries. Now, in these industries, there were large number of workers who were coming and working over there. Now, again, these are very small topics and very easy one, but the question comes from here also. Where did the workers used to come from to work in these industries? You will find there are a large number of with the expansion of the factories, their demand for the laborers or the workers increased, and there were large number of workers working in these factories. 58 lakhs 4,000 workers in Indian factories were working. By 1946, the number increased to 24 lakhs 36,000. So this is how 36,000. Where did the workers come from? Now, in most of the industrial regions, workers came from the district around the peasants and artisans who found no work. So they were from the rural background, rural areas where there was no work. So they started migrating to towns and cities when they came to know about the industries, and they thought they can work and manage some money. Over 50% of the workers in Bombay cotton industries came from the neighboring district. Now, these all you have to write down. Neighboring district of Ratnagiri. You have to write all these. While the mills of Kanpur got most of their textile hands from the villages within the district of Kanpur. Children, I have seen that children generally, what you people do, you write your own answer here. So again, you have to refer to the book. Whatever being written here, that only you have to write. So please go through the books. Once again, I am reminding you to read the book. Most often, mill workers moved between the village and the city, returning to their village homes during the harvest and festivals. So some of the workers, they used to work there in the towns, and during the festival time, they used to go back to their village. So over time, a news of employment spread. There were a large number of people started coming to the factories, and when they came to know about the textile mills of Bombay and in jute mills of Calcutta, there was large migration started taking place. But coming to the town doesn't mean that they will get the job. Getting job was very difficult. Even when mills multiplied, the demand for workers increased, the number of seeking work were always more than the job seekers. Therefore, entry into the mill was very much difficult. So entry was, industrialists usually employed a jobber. Here again a question may come, who were jobber? So they employed a jobber to get new recruits. Very often, the jobber was an old and trusted worker. He got people from the village and nearby areas, ensured them job, helped them to settle down in the city, and provided them money in times of crisis. The jobber used to look after these workers also and their problems. The jobber therefore became a person with some authority and power. He began demanding, but many a times, because he was providing them job and all, he began demanding money and gifts for his favor and controlling the lives of the workers. Till here, and in my next class, children, I'll teach the next topic. Thank you. Till then, take care.